Afternoon, Arizona panfish bandits and other panfish associated groups of Arizona. As you know from another video I made, the Pansassin rod is down with a broken tip. That is a microguide rod. They were special order guides. So I've got to wait for a response from Ron Weber of Southwest Custom Rods to see if he has any on hand. I really don't mind if it's the same tip as long as it's still a microguide tip. Still used it today. The line got really super frayed, but it still pulled in all the fish. But in the interim, I went ahead and got a Shakespeare micro series, and this one is a 5-foot ultralight for 2 to 6 pound. And it's got a hook keeper in it, which is cool. It's not a split grip. It's a plastic and cork. It's got a good bend to it. For a 22 with tax rod, it is exemplary. The guides are all the steel inserts, so I don't have to worry about the zircon breaking like this tip did. And I've got the Orion 1000 on it. It balances perfectly good. And I freshened the line. I took the affected line off, and I still got 240 yards left, so I'm not at any loss of line or casting ability. So essentially what happened today, got there about 6:20 to the spot that Chris and I go to a fair amount. Just wasn't happening for either one of us. I got a couple pretty decent hits, but there just wasn't a lot of activity. We did have plenty of shad. We had a bigger bucket. The bubbler worked great. The shad did start to die off, which they do because it's hot water. It's Arizona. But there was a variety of size. So Chris left me the cooler bucket and the cast net, and I had my minnow net, and I had to use the minnow net to pull the crappie in because I left my net at the car, and Chris took the net that he had home. So it worked. It is not a crappie net, but it worked. I got some absolute mooses out of the culvert, and right around 10:30, 11 o'clock is when it just really started hitting for me. It got fresh water. I dumped the old water out with the dead shad that were in there. Got fresh shad, about 40, 50 or so of them, which was great. They were anywhere from 1.5 to 3 inches, which is that range that I love for crappie. And I had my size 2 mosquito light on, and I was just freelining into the culvert, and the shad, since they're flat, they skip in there pretty good. Let them swim around. They were free weight, so they weren't weighed down, move around a little bit, and then the way that the shad were hitting was not the thump. All of a sudden, it was just weight, and I would pull into it. When they hit, they were hitting it by sucking it in, like true feeding. Like they wanted it, and they took it. Every single one I caught, all 22 of them, I had to use my forceps to get the hook out. I had to, I had no choice. And despite the fact that the line was frayed, I'll give Vicious brand credit. Their 2-pound line's pretty tough. The only reason the last spool I had failed was because I left it in a hot desk in a non-AC'd house for 2 years. It happens to line when it's exposed to heat for a long period of time. That was on me, but it was a $16 spool line. I really wasn't hurting that much. This is the same spool, different lot number, new spool, nice and strong. Actual break strength is somewhere around 5 to 5.5-ish pounds. Amplified with diligent rod and drag use, you can pull in some fairly big fish with it. And it's served me pretty good, so I've stuck with it. There are other brands, Crappie Max, Wally Marshall's got a brand. There's all sorts of different ones. SOS line is really, really good. There's any number of lines out there that are perfectly good crappie line, but I stick with Vicious because of the expense factor. even with inflation, what it is, I still didn't spend more than 18 bucks on my last spool. And that was only up like $2.50 from the last time I got it like 3 years ago. So it's really not that big a deal. But I got hammered, man. I got overheated. I got like super dark. Now my tattoos are like more visible. I got red in the face. Started getting dehydrated because I drank all of this and I still stayed for another hour like an idiot because I was catching fish. I'm a fisherman. I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. And, I made it to Pita Jungle. Had a Corona, had a green tea, had my water refilled in case I go back out in the morning. Plan on going back out with Chris Monday because it's Labor Day. And, well, I kind of have his stuff. So if he wants to go fishing, I kind of have to because he's not going to drive all the way up to where I'm at just to pick up his net and his bucket. I wouldn't. And, yeah, they were ferocious. I mean, it was really rough all the way up to about 10:30, and then all of a sudden they just were game on. It was high sun. There was some wind. They went in to where the biggest shade was. I mean, there was a whole pod of them, and I heard them splashing around like way the fuck in the culvert. It's a very deep tube, and it actually splits off and goes even further. It actually terminates at Chaparral. But usually, like with a 1/32 ounce jig, I can get around 10 to 12 foot max in there if I get a nice flat skip. Typically 6 to 8 foot. With the shad, I got about 6 foot. And they just would, do their swim thing, kind of go on different strata, and then all of a sudden I just feel that weight, and they were on. But what I'm going to essentially do is get Pansassen's tip fixed, and then I'm going to keep this rod and reel combo and get another one of these 1000As for Pansassen and have a two set of the same reel. My preferred reel for a long time was the Abu Garcia Cardinal series in the size 10 and 20, 500 and 1000 size. They were flawless reels. I never had a problem with them, and they stopped making them. I like the Okumas for any price point because they just build quality for what they do. Now, if I really wanted to do Pansassen justice, I would just get another Revros 1000 Daiwa for a $45, $50 reel. It is insanely good. First newer Daiwa I bought was the Revros. I had a 1000 and a 2500 for my ultralight, and the ultralight I had at the time, which I gave to somebody, and my finesse. So I love Daiwa, but Okuma makes really, really good products. I mean, low key for the cost, you really can't beat Okumas and Daiwas. You get into the bargain basement pricing on Shimano. Unfortunately, it's not so well. They stopped making the AX series, which is a brilliant design. You can still find them on eBay and Amazon. If you find them for a good price, pick them up. They work forever, and you can replace all the parts very cheaply. The FX series and the newer AX, not so much. So I just wanted to give an update. I know I posted pictures. It was a very hot day, and one of the rules in this house where I'm living now is that my cat needs to be behind the door in the room when I'm not there. So I really didn't want to leave him all day, and I had gotten dehydrated, and I needed to get home anyway because I've got laundry and stuff like that to do, and I just really didn't want him to be alone all day long. I could have been out there forever if I had more hydration. I would have just kept catching shad and just pissed in a bush or something, honestly, because it was just on fire after a certain point. But it was just really stinking hot, man. It's like 112 degrees. I looked at my phone and was like, really? Every now and then there'd be a breeze, every now and then, but not very often. So it was still a fun time, and hopefully Monday will be more fruitful for the two of us.